Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, or Chakadash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS for teaching this truth, and peace and salutations to all the Akim out there kicking this word in truth and sincerity. Now, I stumbled across this video on my feed by a content maker called A Call for an Uprising, and this is from about a month ago. This is no one I follow. It was just recommended, and I watched it and thought it was definitely worth sharing. It's this guy's talking about how the chip is being unveiled right here in the United States and how they're doing it. It seems like they're sliding it in through the corporations, which is a really good way to do it. Instead of waiting for some crisis and then suddenly introducing the mark of the beast, the microchip, to everybody who and a lot of people who had not heard of it. It seems a really good way to introduce it is within the corporate world first, so people are very familiar with it. And then he talks about how after a while what we'll see is that the banks won't give you a checking or savings account unless you have the chip, and it all makes perfect sense. But I'm gonna go ahead and play the video and let him tell the story.
24 News update tonight. Legislation to regulate microchipping employees in Arkansas moves one step closer to becoming law. The full House passed Representative Stephen Meek's proposal Thursday. It would allow employees to opt out of getting microchipped without the threat of being fired. Some of Meek's colleagues wondered why this measure is necessary, but most supported it anyways.
We as a body have got to be proactive to protect our citizens, and that's what this bill does. It's a protection bill.
The bill now moves to a Senate committee for debate. 5 other state legislatures are considering similar legislation right now.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to do an update. I talked about this earlier, and you got to see how this is being flipped as a positive with the mandatory microchipping in Arkansas. What they've done, because they've heard such pushback from people in Arkansas, is they've completely switched the narrative, making the narrative that, well, employers can make the microchip mandatory, but if you refuse to get it, you won't be fired. You see how they psychologically do this stuff? So they're saying, the House passes this law to make microchipping mandatory. Mandatory, right? So if you work somewhere, they can make it mandatory for you to get the chip. However, they want to make sure that people can opt out of this and don't have to get it mandatorily. So, is really how you describe it. Like, what? So let me get this straight. My business is going to make it mandatory. Say you work at Joe Blow's, and he's making it mandatory that everybody there, even the guys who clean the toilets, have to have microchips. But if you refuse, you won't be fired. So then it's not technically mandatory. But this is just basic mind control, and how they're flipping this, and they're going to say, okay, companies now can make it mandatory to microchip, right? So all these companies are going to offer microchipping, technically, right? They're going to be allowed to microchip employees. The employees can opt out. Eventually, what you'll see is that all of these companies, you even heard in the news clip, right? You heard them say other states are now going to do this. Other states want to make this, mandatory to protect the citizens. This is the opposite of what it's doing. It is not protecting the citizens. Because never in any way, shape, or form should they be allowed to make microchipping mandatory. But what they're doing is they're making it mandatory, but saying you will not be fired if you do not get it. What does that mean? Well, it means that eventually, after all of these states get this put in place, every state that has a corporation that's licensed is going to offer the microchip to employees. Offer it. They might say it's mandatory, and somebody might say, no, I will not get it. Right? I refuse to take it. And they'll say, oh, it's okay. But eventually what will happen is news story after news story will come out. about how beneficial the chip is, how companies are seeing an increase in work usage. People are working harder. People are, having a better experience at work, not having to log into account. I mean, the most ridiculous stuff, right, that we'll just roll our eyes at. Oh, you don't have to put your password in to get in your computer. You just use your wrist. Oh, you don't have to have a key card. Oh, you don't have to, have a parking thing if you park in a garage or something like that. Thing after thing after thing. They'll say, look how easy and convenient it is. With this bill in place and becoming in place in each of these states, look at the fine print. Mandatory, but you will not be fired over it. So, I mean, even look at how the fine wording of the article. Arkansas House votes to ban forced microchipping of workers. Right? So it makes it sound like, oh, this is a good thing for all of us. They're banning the forcing of it. However,
I just wanted to play a little bit of that video. You can go check it out. I'll put a link to the video in the description below. But as you can see, Esau's using these semantics in their laws in their corporations to slide this chip in and make it seem like it's a good thing, and also to make it seem like they're not going to make it mandatory. And the way he puts it in this video is he's saying that the corporations are essentially making it mandatory, but you don't have to get it, which makes no sense when you really think about it. And he goes on to say that what's eventually is going to happen is that you're not going to be able to work for these corporations unless you have the chip. And this is how they're going to slide it into the United States before the calamity comes, before everyone's forced to get it. So I just want to share that little bit. I hope it was edifying for you. And shalom.